This
So happy to
conference will
see
now be recorded.
your faces and welcome you to the NOAA and the Caribbean Community Group meeting. It's been a while since we have seen you. Our last one was in January, and we, really appreciate your patience as we've had to navigate some changing schedules and priorities, and we're just really happy to be back on schedule and eager to hear from all of you and the three amazing presenters that we have today. Wanted to just say too, if this is your first NOAA in the Caribbean Community Group meeting, welcome. We are so excited that you are here. And if you are not yet on our mailing list, if this was shared by word of mouth or anything of the sort, we would welcome you to join our mailing list where you can hear more about community group meetings, annual meetings, get newsletters and general updates. So I will pop that in the chat right now, a link to sign up for that if you feel so inclined. And it should be there. Let me know if it's not. This is just a meeting that we have every couple of months, typically, and it's an opportunity to hear from our partners in the region, share stories of what's projects that have been happening and going on, stay up to date with events and meetings, announcements, opportunities. So we're really glad that you're here. We're really, really excited that we finally get together as a group. And yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here. Before we get started, today is a little bit different. We wanted to acknowledge that there has been a devastating loss in our Caribbean community, a partner that many of us knew well and loved to work with and admired. And so before we get going with our normal scheduled programming, I just wanted to invite my colleague Kemet Aman Lewis to share some remarks. So Kemet, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'll be pretty brief because honestly, I was trying to put words together and they kept flying away from me. The thing that kept coming back to me was the law of conservation. And so, um, as we know, it's the whole concept that energy is never created nor destroyed. When it seems to disappear, it actually is transformed into another form. Um, and we know that in science, this law is fundamental it's a fundamental principle of physics, and it appears in many other disciplines. But in life, those words have never been replayed in my mind as often or as vividly than this week. Roberto will be remembered by many for the energy that he brought to the environmental conservation field in Puerto Rico. And while much of that energy revolved around corals and watershed restoration, his heart belonged to his community. I think that's the one thing that I admired most about Roberto. It was clear that scientists alone could not answer all the questions, but together with local communities um, would create meaningful solutions time and time again. It was also very clear that his work wasn't only for wetlands, reefs, and fishes, but also for the communities that were well fed, protected, and otherwise enjoyed an authentic Caribbean way of life because of the spaces that he worked to conserve and restore. For over 15 years, he was a partner of NOAA with connections with the Restoration Center, the Coral Reef Conservation Program, and the U.S. Coral Reef Task Force. The founder and executive director of Protectores de Cuencas, Roberto focused on nature-based solutions for habitat restoration, always anchored in community through outreach and engagement opportunities. Through collaborations, he led the organizations with vision and passion, resulting in many wins for nature and communities across his home island. He was also a very generous and empathic human being who loved his family to no end. Guanica, Puerto Rico, and the wider Caribbean are better today because of Roberto and the energy that he brought to conservation and community. I personally commit to honor him by giving even more to the field of conservation and to my own community. I think it's only fitting that his energy continues to brighten the lives of many.
Thank you, Kemet. Roberto Viqueira is an incredible leader in this community. And yeah, there are no words. So before we get started, let's just take a moment of silence to honor his presence here and all of his work in the Caribbean and the impact that he's had on so many people, all of us here, and so many young professionals that he's mentored as well. thank you all for joining us and celebrating his life. We feel his presence here, and through our work, we will carry forward his legacy as well. So, I will now walk us through the rest of our planned programming for today, and what you can expect out of this meeting. So for the remainder of this meeting, we will provide a quick recap of our annual partners meeting held back in June. And then we'll have the opportunity to hear from speakers on 2 different topics. And each presentation will be about 20-25 minutes long, followed by 5 to 10 minutes of questions. After these 2 amazing presentations, we will have about 10 to 15 minutes to hear updates and announcements from our broader community. And we welcome any programmatic or community updates that you have to share with the group. This is our chance to really connect and share all of the amazing work that we've been doing as a broader community. So a quick recap of our annual partners meeting that was in June. I think many of you were able to be there. I'm so glad that you were. But if you missed it, we'll share some recordings and where you can watch that. But I just wanted to extend a huge thank you to all who contributed and participated to this annual meeting and made it a big success. It was a group effort for sure. And while we wish that we could have been gathered in person, the virtual meeting was awesome. We had about 22 presentations that ranged from, coral restoration to marine debris and pollution to community engagement, weather forecasting, coastal erosion, innovative technology. The list just goes on. And we had about 80 different participants from across Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So it was a broad reach, and I thought it was a really successful 3 days. If you attended any of the annual partners meeting, we would really love your feedback. Believe it or not, we're actually starting to plan our next one for next year. And as we're doing that, we want to, while the meeting is still fresh in everyone's minds, to incorporate any feedback that there's been from this past time so that we can do better next time and incorporate, what you would love to see and hear in that meeting. So I will pop it in the chat, but please take just 2 minutes and let us know what you thought of the meeting and how we might be able to improve that in the future. And in that form as well are the links to the videos. If you missed the opportunity to join us at that meeting, you can see all of them linked there as well. So I will pop that in the chat right now, and then we will jump into our presentations. Awesome. Okay, so without further ado, let's get going with our presentations. We will get going with our first one of the day, and we're going to hear from Mamie Colburn and Renee Egan, who will be presenting on NOAA's Fisheries Habitat and Conservation Atlas. Mamie Colburn is an environmental scientist and program analyst for the NOAA Fisheries Office of Habitat Conservation and Restoration Center, where she works as a contractor for ERT. She helps manage the restoration and conservation database to track accomplishments and impacts of funded large-scale restoration projects. Joining her today also is Renee Eaton, who is a physical scientist at NOAA, and she specializes in GIS and data management for the Office of Habitat Conservation, and she is actually the developer of the Habitat and Conservation Atlas. So we've got 2 incredible people who know so much about this and are eager to share it with you all. So it looks like, Mamie, you've got slides up. You're good to go. The floor is both of yours. Thanks so much for being here.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. And just wanted to send out my condolences for your loss to your community as well. I've heard him lauded in a couple of different meetings now, and he must have been a great spirit for the region and for conservation. So just feeling that with you. But I really appreciate the invitation to talk a little bit more today about the restoration and conservation database and share that atlas with you as well. As introduced, I am program analyst and a contractor for ERT. And Renee Eaton is a physical scientist, and she is here with us today as well. And speaking of the annual meeting, I gave a really brief, I think I was on the 15-minute rotation for the conservation database and atlas, and I think there was some interest. So we'll be expanding upon things if you attended that session and learning a little bit more about the database and the atlas today. So I'd like to share with you a little bit more about who the Office of Habitat Conservation is and describe our three main divisions, specifically the programs that feed into the restoration and conservation database and our atlas. I'll be giving a demo of the atlas as well and showing you some of the programs and divisions that contribute towards it. I will discuss what we collect and why, and then try to relate it back to data requests that we get. Then Renee will share the public-facing restoration atlas and do a quick demo on that as well. And we'll have some time for Q&A. This photo here is an example of one of the many types of projects that are housed within the database and the atlas. Here you can see some outplanting of boulder coral. This is a recent photo of Mission Iconic Reefs project, and the photo was from Coral Restoration Foundation, one of our partners. So this is a project record that is in the RCDB, and if it isn't in the atlas already, it will be soon once the project is published. Also give a shout out, there are a few members of the team who use the atlas and use the database or contribute towards the database within this meeting. Kemet is one of those people, so appreciate him being a user of the database as well. So a little bit about who we are. This is the NOAA Office of Habitat Conservation, and we serve to protect and restore habitat and sustain fisheries, recover protected species, maintain resilient coastal ecosystems and their communities. And we have three divisions, the Habitat Protection, the Chesapeake Bay Office, and CBO, as it's called, and the Restoration Center. And each of those have programs that lead into, and the project information is housed inside the RCDB, Restoration and Conservation Database, and the Atlas. So a little bit about where we work. Our office is headquartered in Silver Spring, Maryland, but we have regional staff that work with communities all across the country, from Puerto Rico to Hawaiian Islands. We have approximately 100 technical experts who are distributed in more than 20 different offices. The closest one to the Caribbean would be our Southeast Regional Office in St. Kitts. So because these folks work in the coastal communities that we serve, they're really uniquely positioned to offer support that's tailored to the needs of that community and the ecosystem. And they're there to help navigate hurdles that may arise. So Renee's going to share just a little bit about Habitat Protection Division, because that's the group that she works with more closely, and talk about the things that lead into our database.
Hi, yes, good day, everyone. Again, my condolences. But to talk about the Habitat Protection Division, their work primarily is to keep vulnerable habitats safe from threats like pollution, development, etc. The office's key initiatives that you see listed on this slide really focus on advancing habitat and fishery management through national policy development, program coordination, and partnerships. Next slide. We also have the Chesapeake Bay office, and they aim to enhance the bay's health by integrating cutting-edge scientific knowledge. This ensures its sustained commercial and recreational viability for the generations to come.
And I'll just highlight a little bit more about the Restoration Center. So this third division of the Office of Habitat Conservation leverages funding, provides technical assistance, and develops high-quality restoration projects. So we work with partners across the country to implement those projects, to do things like recover T&E species, support sustainable fisheries, restore natural resources damaged by oil spills, hazardous releases, groundings in coral communities, and strengthen the resilience of coastal ecosystems and communities. We work across various strategies, and some of the strategies that might be more interesting to you all is that we have a coral strategy and oyster restoration strategy as well. So we do this through specific programs. So the program has a reason for existence, it has a specific funding, and then partners work through those programs. This is just some of the programs that we find inside the restoration and conservation database. There's the DARP program, that's damage assessment, remediation and restoration. So that is when there's a specific injury to environmental resource where there's settlement funds that are then used for the restoration of that area. We also house some Deepwater Horizon information. DWH does have its own database called Diver, but some basic information is also overlapping. We also have the community-based restoration program, which is one of the larger project or programs within the RCDB, including our more recent IIJA funding and partnerships through that. We have Coastal Wetlands Planning, Protection and Restoration Act, so that's CWIPRA in Louisiana, and also projects that are done in the Great Lakes through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the breadth of the programs that lead into this database, because while it is NOAA specific, it does handle quite a few different programs of project information. So our expertise, so in addition to funding, we have a technical support, and we work closely with partners to provide information on a variety of project needs. So we have fisheries biologists on staff, engineers, project managers, even natural resource economists. So in order to develop large-scale, complex restoration projects, you really need a breadth of experience, and we try to provide that through all phases of the project lifecycle. And by providing that, we hope to build restoration projects that are effective, efficient, and connected across the ecosystem. And our database is how we manage the information that we're getting from our progress reports and our partners. So a little bit about the database, and then I will show you a sample project. So the Office of Habitat Conservation database is over 25 years old. It's had a couple of different versions. It's actually in a new update right now that we're testing with some of our internal folks, and then we'll be rolling that out. But its purpose is to track accomplishments for projects and fundamental information on location of the project, monitoring, etc. Then that information can be used by internal folks, such as our planning division or leadership, to tell the story of our projects and see what the sum of our accomplishments are. And then this feeds into the Restoration Atlas, which has a public-facing component to it, so that RCDB is internal for our project managers and leadership to use. However, you can ask for a data query, and I'll chat just a little bit more about what that would look like. So this year we've collected, well, the RCDB has over 11,000 acres of restored habitat and over 390 stream miles that have been opened up. And the reason we know that is because we're tracking it pretty closely in our RCDB. So let me switch over and show you what this looks like. So this is a test project. This is not particularly accurate or real, so bear with me there. But within this database, this internal database, the project manager, which we will call the technical monitor, enters information that they get from the partners as they receive progress updates. And they navigate through these various tabs to put in that information. So we have basic things such as the project name and description, when construction is going to start so that we can track that information, the region, state, and then the program, whether that would be IIJA, it's still in here as BIL, community-based, DARP, etc. Those programs that I was describing before. That allows us to have roll up our accomplishments under the various programs. We also have strategies that can be applied. Like I said, coral and oyster are one of our strategies. We also have fish passage and hydrologic restoration. And what this does is that if that project falls under a strategy, the database and the project itself would have fundamentally different monitoring questions. And so this system is dynamic and can pick up and ask the project manager different questions about their monitoring based upon the strategy that they choose. In addition, we're tracking information on partners, techniques that are used, species of concern that are potentially positively impacted by the project. And I mention these because these often come up if I get a data request to say, for example, from a partner might want to know what projects have been done in the past 10 years that had a positive impact on red drum. Then we would be able to query that information and create a curated data set that they could potentially use for research or for other processes or that they need that for. We also look at basic level NEPA compliance and track that for them. The system has alerts that are built in to try to prompt the technical monitor to say, hey, construction started, but your NEPA doesn't say that it's completed, just to help make sure that they are aware of things that they are needing to have in place. We do track some high-level monetary information, mostly our NOAA contributions towards that project as well. We have a location tab that looks at the location, and this is really key for tying the project record back to the Atlas, which is a GIS platform. One of the main things that I said we were looking for are accomplishments, and so on this page, it's really a two-part process. So at the beginning of the project, the technical monitor would say, based upon what we're planning, we expect that our estimated restoration is going to be 12 miles, in this case, of in-stream habitat restoration. So they would put that in as an estimate. And then as they get those progress reports back, they would put in the actuals. So it allows us to forecast what we think will be our accomplishments for the coming fiscal year, and then compare that to what our actuals are as well. In addition, we look at volunteer hours, marine debris, and additional accomplishments. This could be anything from recreational to community enhancement and economic accomplishments as well. We track the contacts, so this would be the folks that are responsible for that project at that time. And then we have our monitoring page, which has some high-level information on implementation and effectiveness monitoring, if that is in the cases where those are applied for that project. We have our media tab, which would have potentially before and after photos, as well as a notebook with some lessons learned. So with all of this, we then query that information with Tableau. We are potentially transitioning that to Power BI, but that's then how we extract the information, create reports on what has actually been accomplished for the fiscal year, what is being accomplished over various programs, and share that information back with our leadership so that we can look and meet our annual goals. So I think what we'll do next is that Renee's going to chat a little bit about the Restoration Atlas and then show you that application.
Yes, thank you, Mamie. So as Mamie mentioned, one of our public-facing resources to help you find what restoration projects are near you is the Restoration Atlas. A lot of the information that was collected in the database that Mamie showed is internal for our RC folks. So what I'm going to cover, I think I will cover some important information to note about the tool first, and then I'll provide a little demo and sneak peek of the application later on. You can advance. You can click ahead, Mamie.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so the Restoration Atlas is a vast resource. It includes, as Mamie said, thousands of projects across the nation for a number of different habitat types, from the wetlands to coral reef projects. You can find information on the project location, of the species that benefited from our restoration work, and examine what strategies or techniques were used. Next slide. What I did want to highlight is the differences between the information that you get when looking at the RCDB or the Restoration and Conservation Database, and then the public-facing Restoration Atlas. So a lot of the partnership information, so who we've partnered on with these projects, the monitoring data especially, and then the funding. So a rolled up funding of, for instance, if you were trying to find how much funding was contributed to all oyster restoration for the Restoration Center, that level of detail would not be there, but you can find individual project funding. So they can tell you for a particular project how much fund was contributed to that one project, but it doesn't do that roll up. It also doesn't do the roll up of our accomplishments. So the atlas wouldn't necessarily be able to tell you we've restored 11,000 acres, but it will tell you on an individual project level how many acres was restored for that particular project. Next slide. For instance, this is one example of what you would see when you're looking at the atlas, and there are different tools to help you navigate the information. There are different filter functions. You can filter by a place or a program, strategy, or some dates. If you had a particular date in mind for when the project was started versus completed, you're able to identify where those projects exist and then pull information from the public facing side to see or examine the information that you're returned. I think that I will share my screen at this point and do a quick demo for you guys. Okay, so this is what the Restoration Atlas looks like. It is updated with our restoration projects, generally speaking, every quarter, but at least every year or biannually. This data set gets updated to reflect all of the changes and all of the new projects that we have within the RCDB system. These will not be projects that are in draft. These are projects that have started development or are in completion. You are able to turn layers on and off. We can also look at congressional districts and watershed boundaries, if that is your area of interest. You can filter, like I said, you can filter by state or region. You can click on a particular project and find out more information on that one project. So it takes you out to our individual project page where you would get a description of that project. If there are any photos associated with it, you can find out the cost, the status, what program it's related to, the techniques, and our accomplishments for that project. How much acres or stream miles were restored, depending on the type of project you're looking at. You're able to add additional data. So if you had additional areas that you wanted to observe with the Restoration Atlas, you're able to go in and either search for those in ArcGIS Online. If you have a URL that you're interested in adding the data, if you have a data service, or if you want to upload a shapefile of a particular boundary that isn't one that we've provided, you can include that data set into the atlas and then search for projects within that boundary designation. You can run different queries, so you can query by a location or, like I said, by the congressional district or watershed. If you had included an additional boundary, you can query by that designation as well. And I think that was all I had in the effort of time. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mamie and Renee. That was fantastic. It's really an incredible resource to see, and yeah, just for the broader restoration and conservation community. One of the reflections and takeaways that I have right now is that so often you can really feel the impact of a restoration or a conservation effort in a local area, especially if you're a member of the community who visits the site regularly. But it's to be able to have these metrics to actually report back out to for folks who aren't necessarily members of the community or who are regional and national decision makers. It's just really amazing to be able to have all of this data in one place and to so easily be able to query to answer different questions that would have a really big impact to national and local decisions that are being made. So thank you guys so much for all of your work to make this happen, to put it together, to manage it, and for sharing it with us as well today. With that, we've got about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. If anyone has any, feel free to raise your hand or come off mute. Turn your cameras on if you want to. We would love to hear from you.
Hi, Mamie and Renee. Thank you so much. My colleague Tasha Allen and I have been looking at your atlas recently. Tasha and I both work for the Office for Coastal Management, and we work a lot in the Caribbean. And I just popped in also. So I have a couple questions in the chat for you. Are these just IIJA funded projects? What's the time period that you can go back in the awards database? And then I also wanted to share the BIL IRA Awards Explorer with all of you. I look to that a lot just because I play a regional role with OCM, and I'm constantly trying to matchmake people, communities, organizations that are trying to do nature-based solutions projects with others. And I wondered if we might be able to collaborate a little bit at some point, and make sure that the coverage for the Caribbean in particular is well represented. So just wanted to ask those questions, because we've got a lot of projects funded from OCM, the CZM, NERC project, and of course the recent IRA funded projects. So I just wondered, would people have to go to 2 different databases, or can we at some point do one? I'm not sure. I'm just brainstorming out loud.
Yeah, so I'll start with where we're currently at. The RCDB does include more than just IIJA. It includes community-based restoration projects. So that IIJA is a subset of that. So it includes its parent, I guess I would say. It also includes divisions such as the DARP, which are unrelated. It includes hydropower, which is protection. So it is broader than just the IIJA.
Okay.
As for bringing those 2 things together, I'm not currently aware of a specific plan to expand the database beyond the scope that it is right now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it can't happen in the future. But I'm not currently aware of a plan to do that. I could definitely think of lots of needs and reasons to, but that's what I'm aware of right now. Renee, if you want to add anything, feel free.
Yes. So the atlas also includes more than just the IIJ and BIL. I was trying to frantically search for our experience, so I just included a link for you guys. This is the Restoration Center's version of the BIL/IRA project. So we have pulled those out by themselves and included that in a mapping application for you guys. This is also publicly accessible, obviously. Since you guys can click on it. But yeah, if you have questions or need to collaborate on anything, we can definitely do that. It includes more than the Caribbean, obviously, in the BIL, the IIJA, sorry, app that I just shared. But yeah, let me know.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make you aware that the the one that I posted in the chat for you all
Yes,
includes multiple offices. So it includes you all
right.
and it includes us. So it's
Yes,
just nice to see an aggregate and to see kind of a full picture representation of the investments across NOAA.
it
So that's
it
really
is.
inspiring.
It is certainly.
Thank you so much for that question, Aransasu.
Mhm.
Can I ask a quick question? This is Tasha. Um, in the Atlas, can users download any of the data there from the Atlas, the Restoration Atlas?
Yes, yes. So if you run a query or you're looking at specific data in the table, there is an export function for you to download all of the data that you have in the table.
Thank you.
Sure. We are also working on an update or refresh, if you will, of the Atlas to make it more intuitive. This was definitely built a little while ago, so it's in need of a little TLC. So you should be seeing that release in the next couple of weeks, but it will be a lot more intuitive of how to download, how to access the data, and exactly what data sets are included. Thanks, Sasha.
Awesome. Thanks, Tasha. Thanks, Renee.
Mhm.
We've got time for maybe one or two more questions if anyone has any burning at the top of their head. Okay, I have one more. I am wondering, so I'm assuming that these are all NOAA funded projects, and I'm curious if there's any, I think this would be really challenging, but one thing on my mind is sort of like, how to broadly capture all of the different conservation and restoration efforts that are happening in a given area. Is there any partnership with local NGOs or other organizations that are not necessarily NOAA funded, but doing similar work? Is there any possibility in the future to sort of include those as layers or elements in this database?
The database itself, probably not, I would say, but I wonder if on like the GIS platform, if there's more of a way to like once it's on the atlas to include parts of the atlas and other GIS applications. So I don't know if that's come up before, Renee. But
No, not necessarily, but I do know that for the habitat protection, they do work with the NIFHAP board, so the National Fish Habitat Partnership group, and they do work on other projects that are not necessarily funded by us, but that we collaborate on and share resources.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you both so much, Mamie and Renee. It has been a total pleasure learning from you both this morning. And thank you for taking the time to share this incredible work with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, thank you.
So next up, we will move into our second presentation. We've got Fabiola Rivera Irisari joining us to discuss her PhD work and her experience as a NOAA Nancy Foster Fellow. Fabiola is a Puerto Rican coral reef ecologist and a PhD candidate at the University of Puerto Rico and a NOAA National Marine Sanctuaries Dr. Nancy Foster Scholar. For the last 11 years, she has dedicated herself to conservation, restoration, and the study of coral reef ecosystems through the Puerto Rican NGO Sociedad Ambiente Marino. And she is passionate about education and community outreach. Fabiola loves coffee and loves being a mom to her 13-year-old son, Fabian, and their 2 cats. So welcome, Fabiola. We are so glad you're here and can't wait to hear about your experience as a Nancy Foster Fellow.
Thank you, Eliza, for that introduction. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And if you can just let me know if you see it.
We can see it, yes.
Perfect. So my presentation is gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna have a lot of pictures. I'm gonna be talking a little bit about my experience as a Dr. Nancy Foster scholar. I will give some, um, I will talk a little bit about my research, but not too much. I'll be focusing more on the Nancy Foster scholar experience that I've had on the past 3 years that I've been a scholar. But if you're interested in knowing more about my research, I would happily give you another presentation focused on that. So, the title of the presentation is my experience as a Dr. Nancy Foster scholar. Eliza gave a beautiful introduction about myself, but I'm gonna tell uh, other things. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I am currently located in the town of Gurabo, in the island of Puerto Rico. As Eliza said, I have been a coral reef ecologist for the past 11 years. So I have been an alumni of the Universidad of Puerto Rico, University of Puerto Rico. I obtained a bachelor's degree in coastal marine biology at the University of Puerto Rico Macau campus. And then I completed the master's degree in biology, focusing in coral ecophysiology in the University of Puerto Rico in Rio Piedras, and I am currently a PhD candidate also in the UPR Rio Piedras campus, studying specifically stony coral tissue loss disease. So most of my experiences and my development as a marine biologist has been through the organization Sociedad Ambiente Marino. It's a nonprofit organization that uh, most of you know about it. So I've been working on that nonprofit as a research scientist for the past 11 plus years. I am very passionate about outreach and education, so I give a lot of talks to different academic levels. I love giving talk to kids and teaching them the importance of coral reef and coastal ecosystems in general. Um, I was the first Puerto Rican graduate student to obtain the Nancy Foster Scholarship while doing research in Puerto Rico. So it was a pretty big deal in the island when I obtained the scholarship, because no student from Puerto Rico doing research in Puerto Rico had won the scholarship before, and people did not have hope to get the scholarship when they applied. And by me winning the scholarship, it has inspired a lot of people in Puerto Rico, a lot of students in Puerto Rico, to also apply in the hopes of becoming also a Nancy Foster scholar. So I'm very proud of that. And my most important role is being a mom to my son. I have a 13-year-old son named Fabian. He's a soccer player. He's very awesome, and I love that kid a lot. So moving on to the to the scholarship. The scholarship is part of the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries in NOAA. This office has a national marine sanctuary system where there are a total now, in the present day, 18 national marine sanctuaries around the United States area. And the network includes these 18 national marine sanctuaries that are used for educational purposes, for recreational activities, and by commercial industries such as tourism industries. And also, these sanctuaries provide a safe habitat for species close to extinction and protect historically significant shipwrecks. And so Dr. Nancy Foster was one of the most influential and impactful advocates for ocean science and conservation in the United States history. She was a marine biologist, and she was known for her science-based conservation of coastal aquatic life. She worked at NOAA for 23 years. She was the director of the National Ocean Service, and she was also assistant administrator for oceanic services and coastal management. She was a very well-respected person within NOAA. She was supporter of mentoring, a champion of diversity. She advocated for fair and equal treatment of all people in the workplace. She constantly reached out to minority serving institutions, and she was especially passionate about engaging and in creating opportunities for marginalized students to pursue careers in marine science. And after a battle with cancer during President Clinton's administration, they legislated to create the Dr. Nancy Foster Scholarship Program as a tribute to her contributions to advancing NOAA's mission. So, because of Dr. Nancy Foster's legacy, the program seeks to increase the number of women and minorities in these marine science disciplines, and to support individuals, particularly women and minorities, who, due to financial constraints, may otherwise not be able to pursue an advanced degree in oceanography, marine biology, or marine archaeology. And that's where I come in. I'm part of the 2022 Dr. Nancy Foster cohort. We're currently 17 scholars, and we're located all around the United States. I'm the only one from Puerto Rico. I'm the only one that's full Latina, born, raised, and currently living, in a Latino country, in Puerto Rico. And going back to the national marine sanctuaries, all of the scholars currently do their research within a national marine sanctuary, and that's where I come in. In Puerto Rico, we do not have national marine sanctuary, so that is why it's very hard for Puerto Ricans doing research in Puerto Rico to get the scholarship. And a question that I get asked a lot is how did I get the scholarship not working in a national marine uh, sanctuary? And the thing is that Puerto Rico is located in the Caribbean as well as the south of Florida region. So the problems that we have in Puerto Rico are very similar to the problems that there are in Florida and the Caribbean region in general. So when I decided to apply for the scholarship, it was when the stony coral tissue loss disease outbreak began in Puerto Rico and started to spread throughout the Caribbean. So, as you might know, SCTLD was first cited in the Florida Keys in 2014, and in Puerto Rico, it was first cited in 2019. So, by this time, there was no research being conducted in Puerto Rico, so we had to start researching what is this and how is it behaving in our reefs, and that's where I uh, applied for the scholarship, saying, "Hey, in Puerto Rico we have the stony coral tissue loss disease program. Sorry, the stony coral tissue loss disease problem that is also active, in the Florida Keys. So the research that we do here can be applied to the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary and even to the Caribbean region." And that's how I got the scholarship. So the Nancy Foster program is currently funding my PhD, and my dissertation is called Stony Coral Tissue Loss Disease, SCTLD, a transdisciplinary study for the management and conservation of Pseudodiploria strigosa corals, and it's all based in Puerto Rico. And my thesis has a general objective of understanding SCTLD demographic dynamics in 3 reefs differing in water quality to develop management strategies for the Caribbean region, not just for Puerto Rico. So I've been monitoring a total of 300 to 350 colonies in different sites. I have seen healthy colonies get sick and die. I have seen sick colonies get healthy. And I have seen all the history of these colonies that have been affected with SCTLD throughout the time of my PhD studies. So we have studied demographic performance such as survival rate, live tissue cover, and this information has allowed us to develop matrix population model to make projections to the future, to what's going to happen with these populations if we do not do anything, what's going to happen with these populations if we restore them with X amount of outplants or with another amount of outplants, or if we consider uh, recruitment. So with these matrix population models that we have been doing through my dissertation, we have developed information that has been continuously shared with the Department of Natural and Environmental Resources, and it has helped to identify priority areas to be managed in Puerto Rico for stony coral tissue loss disease. Um, Part of the history that I was telling you about, that we know what has happened with all of these corals. This is an example of some geospatial statistics that we've been doing. Every dot represents a coral, and we have our three sites, and the colder colors mean more healthy tissue, and the warmer colors mean less tissue, less live tissue cover. So through time, we have seen how SCTLD has spread in all these sites, and we have seen that some sites have become more affected than others. And the sites, like the second site, this is actually the one in the center, is actually Playa Carlos Rosario in Culebra. So we have identified areas that have been coping better with SCTLD, and not just SCTLD, but the bleaching events, the recent bleaching events that we've had. And so these are areas that should be prioritized for conservation and management through the DNER. So if you want to know more about my research, I can happily give another presentation about that and give more details. So understanding SCTLD dynamics enables the development of local management strategies that can be implemented regionally. And not only do I share this information with the Puerto Rico Department of Natural Resources, but the knowledge is also shared among peers from Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuaries, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. This is a picture of one of the SCTLD Caribbean group workshops that are held annually. So now I'm going to show you some experiences that I've had. I have so many experiences, but I will be highlighting just some of them. I've been a foster scholar for 3 years now, and through my time as a foster scholar, the program provides a yearly science and communication training and retreat. And this is like a yearly meeting of all the scholars and all the Nancy Foster staff. Everyone gets together in one place. Usually is in a national marine sanctuary. Every year they take us to a different national marine sanctuary, and we get to learn about that sanctuary. Why is it a sanctuary? Why is it important? We learn about the culture of the area. We meet members of the community, and they also provide us with a lot of professional development workshops and trainings. So scientific writing workshops, job interview trainings. We had a workshop in salary negotiation. We network with a lot of NOAA folks. They teach us about grant management. We learned about giving a 3-minute thesis presentation, how to share the why of our research, team building, a lot of team building activities, and a lot of activities that uh, allow us to work on our effective communication skills. So this is only just a few of the workshops that we have been provided with. In 2022 was my first year as a scholar, and the retreat was in the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary in California. This was an extraordinary experience. It was my first time in California. It was my first time in California waters. Um, They took us to the Channel Islands National Park. We stayed in the research station that's in the Santa Cruz Island. So we stayed the whole week in that research station and had a lot of workshops on different things. This picture right here in the top center, we did one of the team building activities was that we had to do an amazing race, and the different teams had to represent some organism from the National Marine Sanctuary, and our group was called the Mighty Keystones. And we were representing sea stars because the sea stars in the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary are a keystone species. So, and we won the amazing race. So yeah, that was really fun. That was my first time, my first year as a scholar. So it was very important activity, and the other activities also to get to learn my fellow the other fellow scholars. Another of the activities, we do a lot of artistic things. This was an artistic replication of our research to help refine essential talking points for effective communication. So they teach us to communicate our research in different ways, orally, written, through art, and this was the one that I did in that picture, and it was like, in what world do you want to live in? In the left side, you have a healthy coral reef, the infrastructure is protected, and then on the right side, you have a very deteriorated, sorry, coral reef, dead colonies, a lot of algae, coastal infrastructure is compromised, and that was the way that I communicated, the research, the importance of the research that I was conducting with coral reefs in Puerto Rico. I got to swim in the freezing cold Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary waters, and for me that was amazing. It was my first time in those waters, and it was my first time ever seeing kelp. So it was a very, very special experience for me as a Puerto Rican that lives at the other side of the world. So you can see in that picture that I was very, very happy. So I made a lot of new friends. This was very important also because meeting all of these people from all around of the United States and doing such different types of research, it helps you grow personally, and it helps you increase your network. So in 2022, the SACNAS conference was held in Puerto Rico, and since I live in Puerto Rico, they asked me to be part of a panel. So I was a panelist at SACNAS, and I basically talked about my what I'm doing here right now, my experience as a Foster Scholar, how did I become a Nancy Foster Scholar, the fact that I am the first Puerto Rican doing research outside of a marine sanctuary, National Marine Sanctuary, how did I do that? And this was a very special experience for me, also representing the Nancy Foster program and also being an ambassador for NOAA and Puerto Rico. In 2023, the retreat was held in American Samoa National Marine Sanctuary. This was an amazing experience, a very special experience to get the chance to visit this Polynesian island of American Samoa. We learned a lot about their culture. We got to snorkel in their coral reefs, and this is a short video. The coral cover is insane. It's 100% coral cover, very low algae, and it was, for me, living in the Caribbean and knowing the struggles that our coral reefs have, and how they have been deteriorating through the last decades. It was a very emotional experience for me because I was like, wow, these places still do exist. This is what our reefs look like. I don't know how many decades ago. So it was very shocking, but also very beautiful. I thought that I was dreaming. It was an amazing experience, and the fact that we learned about the culture in American Samoa was also very special. We got to network with the American Samoa National Marine Sanctuary staff, and not only the staff but the community. In American Samoa, there's a lot of community engagement with the marine resources. So as foster scholars, we got to talk to the community and we got to explain to them our research and how our research can help them in their community, in their workplace, and the American Samoa National Marine Sanctuary in general. So this was also an amazing experience. And for me as an islander, it was great to meet these other islanders living at the other side of the planet, and we got to share, perspectives of being an islander and the struggles. And they're also a territory like Puerto Rico, so we got to share also got to know each other's struggles as a territory within the National Marine Sanctuary system. So it was amazing. It made me grow a lot personally and professionally. Last year in 2024, the retreat was held in Mallows Bay Potomac River National Marine Sanctuary in Maryland. This marine sanctuary is a very different one because here what they are protecting is World War II historic shipwrecks. There are around 150 to 200 shipwrecks from from World War II that were placed in that area, and they were just left there. And they sank, and they're now shipwrecks, and they have become part of the ecosystem. Now they're very important because, as you can see in the video, we have sorry there's vegetation. Sorry, I wanna there's vegetation growing on top of the shipwrecks. So this is a very historical area that is being protected because of its historical significance, but also because it has become a very important part of the ecosystem. So we got to learn about the history and learn about the ecosystem in general. We had a lot of community team building activities. We went to the U.S. Naval Academy, so they gave us a tour over there. That was awesome. In the top left picture, that was one of the team building activities where we were making coral polyps out of paper to do an activity of related to coral reproduction, and that was very fun. So we do a lot of team building activities and professional development in very dynamic ways. Uh, and at the end of the retreats, we also finish the week with a bonfire and doing s'mores. So it's just to keep connecting as Nancy Foster community. We call ourselves Nancy Foster sisters and Nancy Foster family. So besides the professional development, there's also a lot of connecting personally with everyone. And so the people that are responsible for all of these experiences, we call them our Nancy Foster parents. From left to right, you have Seabury Nagbar, Claire Fackler, Kate Thompson, and on the right picture, Dr. G, Steve Gittins. Those four people have been amazing, and they are the ones, the principals that are responsible of us having all of these amazing experiences as foster scholars. So the Nancy Foster Scholarship Program has become an extended family for me. And the influence that the Nancy Foster Program has had in my life, I've had significant professional and personal growth, significantly increased my network. I've learned a lot about other research topics through the other scholars. It has opened many doors to possible collaborations, internships, and jobs. Participation in many NOAA meetings, such as this one, they have supported me financially and morally to obtain my PhD, and they give us a lot of tools for obtaining a federal job. So I have been a Nancy Foster for 3 years. It's a maximum of 4 years. So this is my last year as a scholar. And what's next is that as part of the program, you also have to do a program collaboration with any office or research group in the National Marine Sanctuary system. I put in parentheses, hopefully, because due to the budget cuts, I won't be able to do the program collaboration, but we're still waiting to see if it's going to be possible. But it's originally part of the scholarship to have a NOAA program collaboration. Um, I also have to do an outreach project specifically for the Nancy Foster program. That in my case, we're going to be doing a social media capsule of my work. So this next year, I'll be continuing supporting Puerto Rican students in their application. I have done that throughout the years, and I'm still gonna do it because I want another Puerto Rican in the program, and yeah, and graduate in May 2026. So Dr. Fabi coming soon, and that will be all that I'm sharing today with you. So thank you very much for your attention.
Dr. Fabi coming soon. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fabiola. That is just so fantastic to hear about your experience as a Nancy Foster Fellow. It's, one of the things that just resonated with me so much is how moving it is about the fact that you're the first Nancy Foster Fellow from Puerto Rico, and how that's inspired this whole new wave of and new generation of students to apply for the fellowship. I think it just immediately makes me feel how emblematic it is that, representation really matters in this space, especially in marine science. And it's moving to know that your choice to pursue this fellowship has really opened the doors of possibility for other students in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands as well. So thank you for sharing your story and for highlighting your work on stony coral tissue loss disease and all the incredible opportunities and relationships that you've built throughout this fellowship. It seems like a wonderful community to be a part of. So thank you for sharing. We've got about 5 minutes of time for questions. If anyone has anything they want to ask, soon to be Dr. Fabi.
Thank you for the comments.
Okay, it looks like we've got some in the chat. Let me just open this up here. Alyssa asks, you mentioned that it was difficult for people to obtain the scholarship in Puerto Rico, but I missed why that was. Can you elaborate on why it's been difficult for islanders to earn this opportunity? You are definitely paving the way for future students.
So the problem is mainly because there's no national marine sanctuaries in Puerto Rico. And when students develop their proposal, they focus on work in Puerto Rico, but just focusing on the island, Puerto Rico. And the strategy that I have been trying to teach, the new upcoming students that are applying, is that you have to talk about the problems in Puerto Rico that are basically the same in Florida, and how your research in Puerto Rico is going to impact the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. So that was a strategy that I used to get to the program. But yes, that's mainly the problem. It is open for Puerto Rican students, but yeah, you have to be strategic in the way you apply for it.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for elaborating on that. I hadn't connected the dots about like the proposed project that you're working on needs to be based in a national marine sanctuary, and that's hard when
Yes.
your work is local. So makes a lot of sense though to try and tie that into a region that is close by, which is the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary, and also really cool too. I know this is sort of after you had joined the program, but to be able to have the opportunity to meet with other folks who are doing similar work in American Samoa, but to see the differences in island communities and what restoration and conservation looks like in those different locations as well. Anyone else? Any question? Feel free to come off mute or pop it in the chat.
Maria.
Saludos, Fabiola, and congratulations. I am super impressed with all the things that you have done, and I wish you the best. I think the fellowships experiences are gonna change your life, as it has done for many of us that have done other fellowships related to coral reefs or throughout So I am really, really happy that you're able to do this. I have a question for you regarding how did you hear about the opportunity, and um, what do you recommend students, people that are starting their careers to do, like to search for these opportunities? Because one thing that I have seen, and I did my a NOAA fellowship a long time ago, but one of the biggest issues is that these opportunities doesn't always are noticed by students and the Puerto Rican universities, and not just fellowships, but also job opportunities. So it's very difficult for them, like, to know that there's something somewhere else that you may be applying to. So what would be your recommendation? Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Gracias por las felicitaciones. Thank you. Um, eh, Networking. The key is to network, to talk to people, ask questions. I knew about the scholarship because of a graduate student in the University of Puerto Rico while I was doing my master's. I was doing my master's. He was finishing his PhD, and he was like, "You should apply for this scholarship." I did not apply by that time because I thought that I didn't have what it takes. I had to work on my confidence as a scientist. So I knew about the scholarship because of him. And when I started my PhD, he was like, "You should." Again, he was like, "You should apply for the scholarship." I was like, "Hey, you know what? I am gonna apply now because I am working with this problem that is a huge problem in the whole Caribbean region, and it might work." So that's where I applied. But yeah, definitely a lot of people do not know about these opportunities. That's why I encourage students, to talk to as many people as they can, to ask questions. Asking questions is essential, and looking for mentors, to have mentors while you're studying, not only your research mentor, but to have other people that talk to you about their experiences, what they have done, what it has been like for them. You have to talk. And when opportunities such as this one, where I got invited by Eliza to give this presentation, when opportunities like these come up, you have to take them, because someone might be listening, and someone might be interested in working with you, and someone may offer you something, and that's the way that we're gonna keep on growing and keep on learning about all these opportunities. So my best recommendation is to talk, talk, talk.
Thank you so much for that question, Maria. Okay, one final question for you, Fabiola. In the chat, we've got Bradford, who's asking about the health of coral in American Samoa. Were there useful lessons there that could be effectively applied to our U.S. sanctuaries to improve coral health and sustainability?
Wow, my experience in American Samoa was so amazing, and what I saw the most was community empowerment. Um, they talk to their children about their marine resources and the importance of them, and why they should um, protect them, because they give you food, they give you protection, they're part of your culture. Culturally, the coral reefs over there are very important for them. It's part of their culture. So definitely community engagement has been a very important part of maintaining that health in those coral reefs in American Samoa. They were actually telling me that if people wanted to do research over there, they had to talk to the community. You cannot just go there and, okay, I have a boat, I'm gonna go to American Samoa and research this area. No, you have to talk not only to the National Marine Sanctuary staff, the NOAA staff, the natural resources staff, but you have to talk to the community. Everyone has to give you permission to work there. And depending on what you want to do, there. They regulate a lot the work that is being done there. But I think the most important part is the community engagement part with the natural resources. We can definitely learn from that.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like it's stewardship of the
Yes.
place that you live and that you rely on. And to be more connected to that, I think could only help. Yeah. Well, thank you, Fabiola. We are so grateful
Thank
for
you.
you and so inspired by the work that you're doing. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah. Awesome. So with the last 12 minutes or so, we are going to turn it over to community updates and announcements. Let me just make sure there's nothing else on my list here. Yeah, I think so. So would like to invite anyone in the audience to share updates with our community about projects, programs, events, any support that's needed. We, yeah, want to just make sure we reach everyone who wants a chance to speak. So please feel free to raise your hand so we can keep track of folks. But first, I think we've got Kitty Edwards in the queue. Kitty, I know you mentioned this a little while back, but would love to hear a little bit more from you about opportunities for learning exchange to share outcomes of your project in the USVI. So I see you're online, so great. I'm glad you're here.
Hi, good morning. I totally forgot I said I was going to talk about that. But yes, so good morning, everybody. I am Kitty Edwards from the Division of Territorial Parks and Protected Areas based in St. Thomas. And we have been working through the NOAA Climate Resilience Regional Challenge award that we got here in the USVI on building capacity for our partners in the U.S. Virgin Islands, but also developing workshops and learning exchanges where we can work with friends and partners throughout the, I think technically on a federal call, I'm supposed to say within the U.S. Caribbean. But we're also looking at extending beyond that. So really excited to see what new opportunities come up. Unfortunately, she's not on the call today, but we do have on the parks team Kayla Budd, who is our research and restoration coordinator, and she is really spearheading that portion of the projects. So happy to follow up with any questions, conversations, but really we're just looking for partnerships and opportunities to build our capacity through partners. And thank you, Giritza, for putting that up on the screen. So our NOAA RCRC award does have 3 pillars. One based on implementation of watershed and coastal improvement plans. So that is run through our Division of Coastal Zone Management through Hillary Lohman, and she has a lot of really amazing stuff planned. So if that is your area of expertise, please, I can put you in contact with Hillary. We have climate resilient land conservation and park development. This is all land acquisition. So would love to hear anybody's success or horror stories about that. And then the third, which has the most partners, is our education and workforce development, and that is subawards to community partners to continue doing their amazing work. But we have coral restoration, mangrove restoration, and urchin restoration projects in there, as well as workforce development for officially, I think, high school through college students, but all of these projects really have a much broader reach. So that was my very quick version. Please feel free to reach out to me. I will put my email address in the chat as well as the website for our project. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kitty. Sorry for putting you on the spot, but glad that we got all of that great info. And yeah, folks, definitely follow up with Kitty in the chat and also reach out to us. We can help connect you as well. Okay, looks like up next we have Krista. Yeah, great. You're on camera.
Hi, good morning. I have a super specific question for all of you. So, the International Tsunami Information Center over the years has been using SurveyMonkey to, like, when we follow up on organize activities and get feedback. And NOAA now, that is So we used to pay like $1,000 to have our license. And so now it's like this big, apparently you just have to have this really big contract, which is it seems that's the only way to go. So I just want to know if anybody has within NOAA, they have experience using SurveyMonkey, if they've run into anything with renewals, if they have any advice. You don't have to answer me now. You can just reach out to me, krista.vonh@noaa.gov, because it's a really serious problem that we have. We don't know how we're going to go about, doing all our engagements and with the community for which we were using that platform. So, thanks.
Thank you so much, Krista. It looks like Tasha says in the chat she'll have someone at her office at OCM email you about what they've switched to. But that's a really good question, and I'm so glad that you brought it up, because this is the kind of thing that we need to crowdsource our minds on for when these kinds of issues come up. So thank you for sharing that. And yeah, Tasha, just make sure that you guys connect. And if you guys can't find each other, feel free to reach out to us, and we will connect you. Anyone else? We've got a little more time.
Yeah,
I don't see any
Eliza,
hands raised.
we do have something in the chat from Brad that actually involves Elisa and myself. It's a NOAA or an art workshop in San Juan for response and recovery, and the Puerto Rico Resource Advisor training we're planning it again. So it's going to be happening, but dates to be TBD. We don't know yet the dates, but we're going to start planning it again. So it's still going to be in San Juan, Puerto Rico, but dates will be confirmed later.
So looking forward. Anyone else with any community updates to share? Okay, I'm not seeing any more hands. If anyone has anything to share after this meeting, please feel free to email us. I will put our email in the chat, but it is region.secarib@noaa.gov. That's the best way to reach us. So with that, I think we are wrapping for the day. Thank you so much for all of those updates and for that feedback. We will work on our end to keep connecting you all to each other and to offer support where we can. And again, if there's anything else that you would like to see from this group in the future, or anything else you want to share with the community that you forgot to mention today, please feel free to email us at the region.secarib@noaa.gov email. If you want to go back and revisit any of our presentations or discussion from today, we will follow up shortly with a link to watch the recording of these different presentations, and also be on the lookout for our summer newsletter, which is going to be coming to your inboxes by next week, both in English and in Spanish. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, if you would like to be featured or have announcements or anything like that for our fall newsletter, that SE Carib email is the best way to get in touch with us and to add your contributions. So with that concludes our summer community group meeting, but thank you all so much for joining us. It is always such a pleasure to see your faces and to hear your stories. And again, a big thank you to Mamie, Renee, and Fabiola for sharing your stories and your presentations with us today.